Considering the fact that we haven't heard from the president himself in the past 48 hours, I'm pretty sure that the process of trying to find out whether he would resign is what is currently taking place. It's still very much speculation and assumption, but that is probably what is trying to be resolved, especially with the envoy that has been sent by Jacob Zuma to Zimbabwe.
And in your opinion, what do you think is the best way to resolve this impasse? Should perhaps Mr. Mnangagwa actually come in and take over temporarily? Should there be an interim government that's put in place? Should there be early elections? What do you think is the most calmest and most rational way forward?
In terms of rationale, first and foremost, we need to understand that this is an in-party crisis that was occurring within ZANU-PF. So first and foremost, the steps that would need to be taken are to have ZANU-PF resolve things internally, where afterwards, in order to pave the best sort of environment for elections in 2018, if they're going to happen in 2018, then maybe look at having an interim government made up of multi-party individuals to then come together and sort of pave way for a free and fair election.
Just speaking about the free and fair elections, I mean, a lot of people that we've spoken to, both in Zimbabwe and outside of Zimbabwe, have the sense that elections in Zimbabwe are never free, nor are they fair. If elections are to carry on in 2018 as previously scheduled, do you think there should be new election reforms that are introduced before the elections take place?
Well, when we had our government of national unity, the whole idea was to sort of make sure that we had these things in place, these structures in place in order for free and fair elections to occur in Zimbabwe. To then say free and fair elections have never occurred in Zimbabwe, you do need to realize that only one person has run for the presidency coming from ZANU-PF. So definitely they haven't. But yes, I do believe that the best way forward is to have an interim government that would take over. And I do not think that elections in 2018, considering the time frame that we're left with, I don't think it would be possible for enough reforms to be implemented for free and fair elections to occur in 2018.
Now, just looking into ZANU-PF, you've mentioned that perhaps ZANU-PF has to clean up their house internally. Who do you think would be a possible successor for President RobertMugabe if he steps down?
We can't run away from the fact that the occurrences that we've seen happening in the past 48 hours were sparked by the axing of Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa, which just goes to show the amount of influence he has within the party. That is without saying that Vice President Mnangagwa would definitely, most definitely, speculation is all, but most definitely be the leader of ZANU-PF after the Congress in December.
Now, the army has mentioned that the president is safe and that they're actually just protecting him from criminal forces, which they are trying to clean up. Who are these criminals that the army has seen it fit to take it upon themselves to actually take care of them?
Well, definitely looking at the individuals who surrounded Grace Mugabe and her G40 crew. We're looking at, as said from media reports coming out of Zimbabwe, Jonathan Moyo, her other allies, Xavier Kasukwe, and Minister of Finance, Ignatius Chombo.
And just talking about the SADC envoy that's currently in Zimbabwe and the SADC leaders meeting that's taking place in Botswana, do you see any positivity coming from it? I mean, can external forces help Zimbabwe to resolve what's going on internally? Or do you think that the country should be allowed to just resolve its matters on its own?
Well, no country is an island. I know it's cliche, but it's fact. No country is an island, and deliberations with the international community are necessary. However, rhetoric that has been coming out of London, Washington, as well as Pretoria has been detrimental to a certain extent. We cannot run away from the fact that we do need to advocate for calm and peace. But at the same time, we must not sensationalize or then bring people to assuming that there is chaos. We must maintain that we do know that in Zimbabwe currently, the situation on the ground is peaceful. And when the media does sensationalize, and considering that a lot of Zimbabweans are at home and people are not going to work, well, some people are going to work, but people have been given the option to not go to work. So which means that the media is their source of information, their main source of information. If the media then goes on to perpetuate a sort of assumption that there is chaos on the streets, this would be very detrimental to the process that is currently occurring. We must give that allowance to the current situation to say that it's only been 48 hours and no violence has been perpetrated against civilians, and things seem to be running at a very steady and fast pace, considering that it's only been 48 hours.
Thank you so much for joining us here on The Ground Report and for your insight into the matter. That was an analyst, political analyst from Zimbabwe, KF Malindi, joining us live in the newsroom.